So hello, this is my first video talking about a subject that has been going on ad nauseum for, from what I can tell, about 15 plus years. And it's an important one if you are a gamer, because gamers, especially ones who are in the hardcore category, are very passionate about the hobby, and that makes sense. And I guess I'll have a few different things to go over here, but the main thing is that as I was watching the Reddit pages, different threads, really a lot on YouTube, and people posting videos, people in the comments section, I have not only been hearing the same thing since the GTA 6 no disc announcement and the bigger ones, Sony no more discs after 2028. I've been hearing this very similar things, and it's honestly not that much different than what I heard last year or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. They're the same talking points, and it makes sense in one way, because people are talking about something that is consistent, that they care about, that they have similar feelings on. But then there's some critical points that I really want to highlight that just don't quite make sense to me. And I wonder if people who are saying these things, and I'll specifically mention some channels that are doing this, if they realize how contradictory it is, how it doesn't really fit together with this idea of that they love this gaming industry, but they're willing to do such extreme things that basically results in them discarding gaming, at least modern gaming. So yeah, here's what we'll start on. So as a quick review, Sony, about 3 weeks ago, they made an announcement that they are going to no longer manufacture discs. And Rockstar also made the announcement that there will be a code on the box for GTA 6. These were two really big announcements, because Rockstar's game not coming on discs, even I was a little bit shocked by that. We're still in the age where people have disk drives, so them doing that, they just really want to milk as much money out of this as they can. And Sony, any of us who have been paying attention to the industry knew that the PlayStation 6, the next console, was likely going to be discless, but we're a little bit maybe surprised that they started it sooner, that they're starting it technically during this generation. But I'll kind of answer some of those questions, because it's not as surprising when you think about Sony's long-term vision on gaming and media and how it's distributed. And I just want to give a disclaimer to start before I go any further with this, that in a lot of ways I'm on everyone's side who's talking about the loss of optical media or cards or some physical way to buy games. It's less options for the consumer, and that is just bad for us. It means prices will be controlled by the monolith storefront of Sony or Microsoft, forces more people to PC, or, there's that kind of notion. And that having options are good. This is something I believe in. You can see behind me, I have games going back, I've been a gamer since 1988. So I was there when there was no option. It was physical or you didn't play the game. So of course, in a funny way, I have more of an attachment to this kind of legacy media than probably a lot of people who I'm reading comments from. And I'm not saying it means that my view has more weight. Again, I'll kind of get into more specifics later. But it does mean that I know the joy of opening a box. I know the previous joy of looking at a manual on the ride home, all those things. And that's part of the experience. And experience is not nothing. to come after the main thesis, the main point of why I finally, after years of saying, maybe I'll make videos, maybe I won't make videos, but why I bought the equipment to make this happen, kind of really comes down to this. There are people like Adam Koralik, I think I'm saying his last name right. I will tag him in this video. He's been saying, I remember videos from 10 years ago saying some version of, quote, the moment I can no longer buy games physically is the moment I'm getting out of modern video games, unquote. And I look at that and I hear that and go, that doesn't sound like the words of somebody who loves video games. I'm sure part of it is loving video games, like that is a component, but that sounds like somebody who loves the things around video games more than video games. I mean, as an extreme example, if I had to hotwire my console every time to get it to run, like get the spark and everything, really dangerous stuff, I'd probably do it. And that's because I love video games. I don't, on a disc, on a cart, on a bunch of ones and zeros being downloaded from the internet. I mean, at the end of the day, the video games are what I love. And I have so much respect, and I owe so much to developers and to publishers to some degree. And this idea that because I can no longer get a disc, I'm just gonna forsake this entire industry. And another thing I'll kind of add in there is this thing of saying, I've heard, again, from multiple people, Adam Koralik was one of them, is I have enough games, right? You got games from years of past, so I'm not going to be done with video games. I'll have enough to keep me through. The issue with that, when I hear that, is that you had enough video games 3 years ago. You had enough video games 5 years ago. You've had enough games for a while. I mean, some of these people who are collectors, they have so many games that they could literally live till they were 500 years old and not really truly get through all of them. They might be able to try them all, but they can't get through them all. So I look at that statement of saying, if I can't buy it physically, I'm done. But they keep buying, like right now, because it's still possible. And I kind of go, you're already mad at these companies. You're already upset. You're already posting video after video about your outrage. But you're giving them money. I mean, the crime has been committed. They have said off with its head by 2028. So to give them money continuing on forward for a person who says, I have enough games already, it doesn't match. It's another one of these contradictory ideas, and I don't know if they hear it out loud or if they get it. I mean, if I hear from if I was in their boat, if I was on board with them, and I call these people, you'll hear the shorthand from me, I call them the Death Cult. And the reason why I call them Death Cult members is because they're saying, as soon as I can't have this, I'm out. They're like basically stabbing all future games in the heart with a knife. It's an extreme behavior. I mean, I don't think there's much argument there to say no more modern games for the rest of my life. That means if you're 30 and live to your 85, 55 years, doesn't matter what comes out, how amazing it is, how much buzz there is, doesn't matter if your kids love it, it doesn't matter if it's being considered, a life-changing event, you've made a rule. You can't buy it on a disc, you can't play it. So there's also just this other question if you can even stick with it, but I digress. But these Death Cult members of saying, if I can't have it, then I won't. So if I was on board with that, I kind of said what would be true, which is that if I looked at Sony's behavior of saying no more games, and I was on board with that, like, I'm not buying anything moving forward, I'd stop right there. I'd be like, you've already thrown down the gauntlet. I'm not going to support you. I'm done. In fact, I'm going to unplug my console. I'm going to stop being an active user. You are no longer representative of me in gaming. But they don't do this. They're waiting and waiting until the absolute last second when the final disc ships? I mean, well, it's for who? Who's watching you? Well, what is this for? Is it just because where it kind of jams me up is this idea of how important the disc is. Like, okay, and there's a lot of different directions this can go. It can talk about the experience of holding a disc. They really talk about the idea of ownership. This is a huge one, and again, I'm not saying in principle it's not right, but I think it's a little misguided. But there's a lot of reasons. But the thing that they don't really talk about is what I would say is the most critical part, which is when I open a game, I get to play a game. Like, that part is so far down the road, you almost forget that that's why they're buying the discs in the first place. You know, they're talking about the idea of ownership and these other types of kind of somewhat more abstract concepts. You know, and never mind the fact that we have examples of games like The Crew by Ubisoft, which was on a disc, had single player content, the disc doesn't work anymore. Or Doom: The Dark Ages, which has a disc, but there's no data on it. So if, you know, Microsoft, for example, or Sony's servers go offline, the disc is worthless. So we are already in this age where the disc is not necessarily some kind of foolproof, I'm protected purchase. You know, it's already a little dicey. And there are websites like Does It Play, for example, that will help you kind of sort out some of these details. Again, I get all these concepts. But really, I'm just looking at this going, who is this for? It almost sounds performative. And by that I mean, it's like it's a big showy way of going, physical is so important that once it's taken away, I am walking away forever, turning my back on these companies who, you know, don't care about us. And again, there's another classic one. These people who say, Sony doesn't care about you. Like, that's something new. Sony didn't care about you a month ago. Sony didn't care about you 5 months ago, and they didn't care about you 15 years ago. They bring up that example when the PS4 launched, and they were trying to, you know, hurt Xbox and Microsoft with their very, very flubbed Xbox One launch. And yeah, they did all those things. They said, here's a disc, this is how you share. And it was a big funny joke. And they, you know, went on there and did just burn after burn. But that was just about as a contrast to another company. And they were making this console. Just imagine a world where Microsoft did that. They said, okay, your disc has to be checked online for DRM. And Sony was doing it themselves. They wouldn't have been able to make those videos. They just were at a point with their console manufacturing where they're all like, oh, we're not doing it that way for reasons we may never know. But they probably were just like, play PS4, this generation, we're going to ride it out like traditional media. Or traditional video games have been in the past. So they were like, opportunity to slam Xbox, and boy did it work. The PS4 outsold the Xbox One handedly. But then you look at this now, the signs have been all over the place, despite never minding the fact that some discs don't come with data, never minding the fact that we now have codes in boxes, never minding the fact that you are having consoles ship without disc players, without an optical media drive to read games, and the PS4, the PS5 Pro, the big machine that, you know, people said it better than I did. It was like, here's this enthusiast machine that comes without a disc drive. That is a little bit nuts, but it's not nuts if you look at Sony in their totality. And I have a lot of other things to say, but I'll kind of leave you on this one question. And if you can answer in the comments section, I would love, especially the ardent people who are going like, physical or death, we gotta hold strong, I'm out, you're part of this death cult that I'm talking about. Once the physical is gone, you're no longer being part of modern games moving forward. That kind of, you know, that line in the sand. I might call it extreme. I ask you this question. Let's say Sony didn't make this announcement, right? So there's no 2028, no disc being made moving forward. in a truly sensible economic way, with everything we know about the market, what we know about that media needs to constantly be researched so that it can keep up with the demands of storage space. The current Blu-rays are already being outstripped by the size of games. I mean, Grand Theft Auto 6 is rumored to be something like 500 or 600 gigabytes, way too big for a disc, so you need multiple discs. And I didn't even get into the fact of that once you started having to install all this stuff, you were creating machines that were so different from the GameCube and the PS2. To me, I'm like, it's installing. The disc is just a barrier for me to get the game going. Sorry, but I digress. My question is this. I can get sidetracked a lot. This is it's something I know, and it will continue to be a problem. But my question to you is this. If you had a 20-year roadmap for Sony, what would it look like? Be specific. Are you saying 20 years they just keep optical media up? Does that mean they invest in new forms of optical media? What happens if the buyer's market drops to single digits? It's already getting close to there. What happens if it gets to 1%? People have talked about the idea of make it like a boutique thing, so charge more. But what happens if, this is another kind of side tangent, but if you look at all the numbers, real kind of fast, dirty, math, Sony makes about $40 on games that they sell at Target, their first party. By contrast, they make $70 on a $70 game on games they sell on their online store, which means that if you're a person who buys PS5 games only physically, your purchases are only worth half as much as somebody who's digital. So for you to be worth it, they kind of need to charge twice as much for their physical games. So, and that's not even including the problem of no more store space. The distributors no longer want to be part of game selling because there's not enough of it, or that the media is not has not been keeping up, so they can't keep the storage, or just the Q&A problem of making sure these discs don't break the consoles. So many things. But are you willing to pay, let's say in 4 years, $140 for a game that I pay $70 for online on the digital storefront? I mean, there are serious questions here. Nobody has answers. Nobody has answered this question of like, I hate this as it's happening. Here's what I propose. They're just saying, I don't like losing the option. It makes me feel bad. And this is what, some combination of these things of, it's what I remember about gaming. It's what I love about gaming. I remember midnight releases, all of these things that are completely valid, but they're based on a past that we don't live in anymore. We have moved into a new economic situation. And if you kind of can't see that, I don't know what to tell you. Sony selling games exclusively online, is it kind of the main reason so that they get to keep more money? 100%. That is their main reason. But it is not, I repeat, it is not the only reason. And keep in mind, have you noticed how EA and Take-Two and Rockstar, who did it on their own, how nobody is fighting for discs? It's not a Sony thing, it's an industry thing. Nobody wants discs. There are articles from the 90s that talk about gaming companies being hurt by the used game market. That a game might get traction later on down the road, but so many of their copies get sold as used because people have played through them or whatever, that they just didn't get that return on investment. They didn't get that money back. I mean, if I was a company and I had a way of stopping that, I sure would. I mean, and again, you can see this. You think I bought all this stuff new? There's no way. So much of it is used. Hell, I found this game on the street corner in San Francisco. So it's not like I haven't been on this journey with all you people. But yeah, I appreciate you coming in. If you've seen this video, for however many people do see it. And I've got some other ideas for Arthur's Second Looks, because I think there's a lot of things in our society right now that is just going through the echo chamber, and sometimes on two sides, and we're just not really thinking about it in this holistic kind of way where it's a true discussion. I'm looking for real discourse where we're, you know, you put it to me. What is a reasonable solution to this physical media problem? I'd love to hear it. You know,